We begin our practice. Hands at your side. Inhale, reach your arms up, look up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, extend your spine, and exhale, step back and lower down, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And settle in here. Reaching your sit bones towards the sky, rooting down into the ground. And exhale. Inhale, step forward to your hands. Exhale, fold, and inhale, sweep your arms up overhead. Back to Samastiti. Inhale, reach up, look up. Maybe get a little back bend here, and then exhale, fold forward. Inhale, extend your spine and step back. On the exhale, lower down, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog, and exhale, downward facing dog. Let's go ahead and reach our right leg up towards the sky. Maybe stack those hips. Bend that knee. And let's play around with bending the knee and then bringing it out to the side, back overhead, out to the side, and then go ahead and come forward. Knee to shoulder, back to the side, and then reaching back, stacked hips. And we'll do that a couple times and then go ahead and step forward and open up into Warrior Two. Rooting into the ground, pushing your head towards the sky. Go ahead and come into reverse warrior. And then forearm rests on the thigh. You come into an extended side angle. Inhale, back up through Warrior Two, and then reverse it. Exhale. Go a little deeper. Bring your hand to the outside of your foot. Rooting into that back leg, reaching that right arm overhead. And back through Warrior Two. Face forward, come into Prasarita Padottanasana, wide-legged forward fold. Our hands are on the mat between our feet. Head hangs down, spine releases. And we breathe here. And inhale, lengthen, hands to hips, come on up. And reach your arms wide and interlace your fingers behind your back. Inhale, find that extension in the spine, and then go ahead and pull in low belly and fold forward, letting your hands come down towards the ground as far as they'll go. Strong legs, sit bones reaching up towards the sky. And inhale, come on up. And we'll turn to go ahead and do that same rotation on the left side. So go ahead and come into down dog and lift your left leg up towards the sky. And then go ahead and stack those hips, bend that knee. It's reaching towards the other side, and then come out to the side, bring it back. Go ahead and back to the side. And back overhead, and then to the side. Level those hips, touch the shoulder, and come back through side and then overhead. And we do that a couple times. I'm sorry if I'm moving too fast. Go ahead and come in your own pace. And we come into Warrior Two on the left side. Check your hip alignment. Nice rooting into your feet, and your head reaches up towards the sky. Arms are strong. They're reaching out to the side, and your spine is extending long. I'm going to go ahead and reverse it. And then exhale, forearm to thigh, arm reaches up overhead, coming into an extended side angle. Just a couple breaths here. And then inhale back through warrior two. And then back into a reverse warrior. Now coming deeper into the pose, arm comes down maybe to the outside of your left leg. Right arm reaches up overhead. If it's in your practice, look up at that hand. And now we're going to go ahead and just come out to the side. This time let's come into a goddess pose, where our feet are more turned out to the side, and we're just going to lower down into a squat. Come on up, squeezing the femur heads into the hip socket as we come up. And after a couple squats there, we settle in to warrior pose. Maybe you lift up on your tiptoes, holding here, low belly stabilizes the pelvis. And then go ahead and come down and go ahead and just side to side. Let those hips open up. Say hello to those hips and then go ahead and come on up. Squatting down, coming up, and back to the top of the mat. Inhale, we come into chair pose. Breathing here for just a couple breaths, and then exhale, fold forward. And maybe you find a little bit of a Bakasana, crow pose. Low belly pulling in, hips pulling towards the shoulders, shoulders reaching out against. And back through our chaturanga, through our vinyasa. And here I'm exploring, seeing if I can jump into Bakasana today. Some days it happens and some days it doesn't. Bend your knees and hop forward. And no worries if it doesn't happen. Just finding those legs and hopping up is really just enough. And then go ahead and come back into Bakasana pose. Hold it a few breaths. And then sheath those legs back, landing in chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. And we'll go ahead and come on through to seated. Let's come into a Baddha Konasana, soles of the feet together, hips go wide. We'll just sit up tall here for the first couple breaths. Extending the spine. And then go ahead and maybe you just, so here I'm just kind of holding forward using my core first. And then come up on my fingertips, find that extension, sternum reaches forward. And then go ahead and round. So the first one was more of an extended spine. This one is a rounded spine. And notice your hips feel a little bit different with both of them. Now go ahead and bring your hands behind you. And let's come into a reverse tabletop and then hover. Send your hips back between your arms. And we'll come back forward and up and back and hover. And just do that a couple times and then settle back down. Now I come into Gomukhasana. So I'm crossing my legs one over the other. The right one is on top for this first one. Knees are stacked, feet are out to the side. And if this isn't possible, you can put your hips up on a block or a book. Give you some space in your hips. I'm just hugging my knees and just resting down here. And go ahead and come on up. And you can either just switch your legs or you can go ahead and come up on your feet and turn on your hands. It's like the hokey pokey. And then settle down and find that same stacking of the knees. Feet are out to the side. And we start by just finding that length in the spine. You may find that one side's a little different than the other. Sit bones root. Spine lengthens. We breathe here. And then when we're ready, hug it in. Just release over the knees. There's a little bit of opening that happens in both versions of this. And go ahead and undo it. And now we're just going to do, some people call this fire log. So my feet are dorsiflexed, toes pointing back towards the knees. And the shins are stacked. And you start by just sitting up before you come forward. Maybe you're able to come forward like I am. Maybe you just come up on your fingertips. There's a little bit of spinal extension, and once you've done one side, stack it the other way. And just find that extension in the spine first. Inhaling and exhaling slowly through the nose. Letting your body adjust. And then maybe you come through and forward onto your fingertips. Sternum reaches forward. And if you want to just put your hands bending your bending your elbows and kind of letting your chin rest in your hands, you can do that as well. All right, done a little bit of that. Let's go ahead and come into a little balance pose. Holding the outside edge of your feet, or maybe you can hold behind your calves, balancing on your sit bones. Reach your legs long overhead. This is like Paschimottanasana balanced on your sit bones. And you can bend your knees as much as possible. And then we'll go ahead and come into boat pose here because our core is already awake. And just doing a little butt lift in between. You're holding here for about 5 breaths in Navasana, and then let it down, lift up, and come back into the pose. And I'm probably breathing here a little bit fast. All right, go ahead and lie down. Maybe adjust your ponytail, maybe take it out completely. Check in with your body. And we'll go ahead and come into a bridge pose. First, let's start, just lift our hips up, send our hips down, pushing into the heels of our feet, coming up and lowering down a couple times. And then go ahead and hold bridge pose. Maybe interlace your fingers underneath your back, pushing your arms into the mat as your hips raise up towards the ceiling. And then if it's in your practice, you can go ahead and come into Urdhva Dhanurasana. Pushing up, breathing here. Coming down, touching your head down, and then maybe walking your hands further in and going back up. I'll just do a couple here and lower down. Hug it all in. And let's go ahead and follow this with Paschimottanasana, a forward fold. Notice that my hands are underneath my knees. I'm hugging everything in, letting my back release and my hamstrings release. And a little rocking side to side also helps release it. I'm going to go ahead and if your back is feeling okay, you can come into the full pose. And now I'll just come into dolphin and then maybe set your head down if you've got your Shirshasana headstand practice. You can come into it. I'm going to take my time, just lifting one foot off the mat at a time. Bending that leg up, feeling my hamstrings, a little hamstring curl, and then we'll go ahead and just do a little tuck here. And maybe you stay right here, nice and low, or maybe you extend those legs up overhead. And your low belly pulls in, your hip flexors try and find some length there, pulling your glutes in, and the ribs get pulled in, and your legs reach active towards the sky. And we'll go ahead and bend those knees and hover one more time. If you want, you can extend your legs out into a half Shirshasana. And then go back up for just a couple breaths here. And then go ahead and slowly lower those legs down, coming into child's pose. Very, very nice. I'm going to go ahead and end my practice. So I'm bringing my legs into a Padmasana. And if this isn't in your practice, you can just come into Sukhasana, easy seated pose. If you've got a Padmasana, you can either cradle your elbows behind your back or you can reach for your feet. Reach for those toes. So you'll see here I'm reaching for my left, the top leg first, and then coming around, grabbing those right toes, inhaling, exhaling, finding a little bit of extension in my spine, and then fold forward. Inhale, come on up. And go ahead and release those feet, those toes. And go ahead and bring your first finger and your thumb together. Other three fingers come together and extend down, arms straight. A few breaths there, and then go ahead. And maybe, after you settled in there, see if you can lift your Padmasana up in the air. Couple breaths here. And we exhale, release. And go ahead and prepare for Shavasana. Namaste. I'm going to leave you in Shavasana. Make yourself comfortable. Extend your legs. And enjoy your time here as long as you need.